Are you wondering which foods you should avoid and which foods you should choose in order to help your body to clear high risk HPV virus and prevent abnormal cells, an abnormal pap smear, and even to prevent cervical and vaginal cancer? Well, you're in the right place because in this video, I'm going to break it down with you. We're going to talk through the 7 most common foods that I recommend that you stop eating immediately. And I'm going to give you some ideas of what to eat instead. And so here's the thing. When you go to your gynecologist's office and you get a pap smear and you get an HPV test, and maybe the test results came back positive, and now you're searching, wondering, what do I do about this? Now, your doctor's not likely to tell you that it has anything to do with your diet or your food choices. In fact, they'll probably just tell you to come back in a few months to get retested, or they might tell you that you need a procedure in order to address abnormal cells. But the standard of care really does not include information about how to help your body to fend off high-risk HPV virus and prevent abnormal cells, even though it's very clear in the research and in my clinical practice that it's possible. As a human, our immune system has the ability to fend off high-risk HPV virus, and not only to clear it to negative, but to remember it even if you're exposed in the future and prevent it from becoming positive again and prevent it from causing abnormal cells and cancer. We just need to figure out why your body isn't being able to do that for you right now. And what I find is that one of the key factors is diet. So that's why I feel like it's so important for you to have this information. And so that's why I'm here to share with you these 7 foods to avoid. And here's the thing. I'm Dr. Doni Wilson. I'm a naturopathic doctor, a women's health expert. I'm a midwife and clinical nutritionist. I've been helping women to address high-risk HPV and reverse abnormal cells for over 25 years. So this is something that I've been doing for a long time and helping thousands of women from around the world. So I'm so glad you found this video, and I'd be happy to hear from you if you'd like more help. So I'll be sure to put a link down below so that you can reach out to my office and let us know what you're dealing with on your pap smear and HPV results so we can help you to know what your next steps should be, would be, could be, and how we can help you on the path to getting a negative pap smear, negative HPV, and keeping it that way into the future forever. Okay, so the first step is going to be looking at your diet. So I'm going to be going through foods that are very commonly eaten. When I meet with women day in and day out, these are foods that they tell me that they've been eating. And then lo and behold, we figure out that these foods have been making them susceptible to high-risk HPV. And once I teach them to avoid these foods and replace them with healthier options, then their body already starts doing a better job of protecting them from high-risk HPV virus. So the first food that I want to highlight is ice cream. Now, believe me, I have been an ice cream lover in my life. It's so delicious. And many times it's something we think of as a treat, a reward, something we enjoy, especially if you're feeling down, if you're feeling emotional, sad, angry, anxious. Sometimes the first thing we do is go to ice cream. So I want to warn you, with ice cream, the issue is several things. First of all, ice cream is made from dairy, which is made from cow milk, most ice cream. Now, you can find ice creams that are made from other kinds of milk. Like now, thank goodness, you can find coconut milk ice cream and almond milk ice cream and oat milk ice cream. You can find a lot of different ice creams not made from dairy, which is a better option. But I would argue still that even the ice creams made from other types of milk are still an issue. So I would say you're going to be much better off if you just decide to no longer purchase ice cream when you go to the store. Definitely don't have ice cream made from cow milk. And I would even uh, think twice about getting ice cream made from a different type of milk as well, because ice cream then often contains eggs and sugar. So these are also ingredients that lower your immune system and make you more susceptible to high risk HPV virus. Refined sugar, like anything that says cane sugar, is going to lower your immune function. Even one little teaspoon of cane sugar will lower your immune function for 8 hours. So if you think about it, if you have a couple spoonfuls of ice cream, now you're already dropping your immune system based on the sugar, and you're increasing inflammation based on the dairy. So it's really working against you. It's not worth it. It only will further disrupt your blood sugar levels and make you more susceptible. So I know it can be sad, and you might want to have one more scoop of ice cream to send it off with one more taste, but I would say that one of the best decisions you can make in your life is going to be to not have ice cream. Okay, so the next food that I want to bring your attention to is cereal. So many people choose cereal for breakfast. You go to the store, you pick out a cereal, maybe you have your favorites, and it's easy. You get a bowl, you put the cereal in, you add milk usually of some sort. So now, once again, we have a dairy product, a milk, in there with the cereal. And the cereal could be various different grains. Oftentimes it's going to have wheat in there. Even if you get a gluten-free cereal, maybe it's going to have rice or corn. But these are highly processed, highly refined grains that really pretty much just raise your blood sugar level. They're not healthy for you. They're not, even if they say they have high in fiber, it's not the best source of fiber. If you want to get fiber, it's much better to choose fruits or vegetables or whole grains, not processed grains that are in a cereal in a box. So I recommend that you say goodbye to the cereal. Even if it's an organic, natural cereal, it's the same thing. Even if it's natural, even if it's organic, it's still refined, processed grains that are only going to raise your blood sugar level. And what happens is when our blood sugar fluctuates, our blood sugar goes up, and then our blood sugar comes back down, and the blood sugar goes back up again, and it comes back down. It's like a roller coaster. And that roller coaster of blood sugar only makes you more susceptible to high-risk HPV, let alone other health issues, including weight gain, yeast and bacterial overgrowth, bloating, gas, constipation, acne, skin rashes, anxiety, depression, and so much more. So to me, it's just got to be off the shopping list. So I would take the cereal out completely, and we're going to be talking about what you can eat for breakfast instead. Because sometimes then people will switch from cereal with milk, and they will then turn to having eggs. I can't tell you how many women I talk to who say, I'm eating eggs every day. And maybe that sounds familiar to you too. I mean, the thing is that eggs are easy. We can boil them, we can scramble them, we can fry them, we can make an omelet, and we're thinking we're getting some protein. But the truth is that there's only 6 grams of protein in a single egg. So if you really want to get to 20 to 30 grams of protein, you're going to have to eat a lot of eggs. And by the time you eat 3 or 4 eggs, you're also increasing inflammation in your body, because what I find is that it's very, very common for women who have high-risk HPV and abnormal pap smear to also have leaky gut. And leaky gut is a situation where the intestinal cells are not as healthy as they should be. What causes leaky gut? Stress, which we all have. Also, pesticides from non-organic foods. alcohol, caffeine like coffee, as well as gluten from anything that's made with wheat, barley, rye, or spelt. So, very likely you're exposed to all five of those things: stress, pesticides, caffeine, alcohol, and gluten. So, quite likely you have at least mild leaky gut, if not moderate to severe leaky gut. Now, you might not realize you have leaky gut because it doesn't, 50% of cases, it doesn't even cause digestive symptoms. So, no, you probably don't have diarrhea. You probably don't even have stomach pain. Some people do, but 50% of people have zero digestive symptoms and they still have leaky gut. And the way I know, because women will say to me, "How do you know I have leaky gut?" I would say if you're testing positive for high risk HPV virus, it's quite probable that you have at least moderate to severe leaky gut because they go hand in hand. I've been seeing thousands of cases and I test for leaky gut, whereas most practitioners don't. I test for leaky gut and I can see that the women who are testing positive for high risk HPV very often have at least moderate to severe leaky gut. So, what happens is when the intestinal lining is not healthy and we have leaky gut, the foods we eat over and over and over every day, like eggs, end up not being digested well and they leak right through between the intestinal cells. And guess what happens next? If the egg leaks through, then it's going to trigger your immune system. Now your immune system is going to be trying to protect you from the eggs. You're eating these eggs because you think they're good for you, and they're not even helping. You're not digesting them, so you're not getting the nutrients. It's leaking through, triggering an inflammatory response. Now your immune system's trying to protect you from the eggs. Your immune system's so busy trying to protect you from the eggs, then it can't protect you from the HPV because it's so distracted with the leaky gut and the egg exposure. So now if you really want to know for sure, what I recommend is to do a food sensitivity panel for IgA and IgG antibodies. I offer this test through my office, and I offer this test through my Say Goodbye to HPV program. So if you're wanting to know exactly which foods you're reacting to and whether you have leaky gut, then just reach out to my office and I can give you access to this test. It's a finger poke test you can do from home. It's that simple. Poke your finger, drip the blood, send it in, and we can see, are you reacting to dairy? Are you reacting to egg? Are you reacting to gluten? And we're measuring 96 foods in total. So we're going to be able to confirm whether you're reacting to egg whites. But in the meantime, if you just are feeling like I want to get started healing HPV, then I would say you might as well start replacing the eggs in your diet, because when you start to look at it, I think you're going to find that the eggs are sneaking in a lot of ways. Even if you're not eating a hard-boiled egg or omelet every day, egg comes in a lot of times in bread and cookies and other baked items, and so muffins. So we need to be thinking, hey, it's not just a muffin. That muffin probably has egg in it. And so now you're getting a little bit of egg protein every time you eat that muffin, either every time you eat that bread. Okay, so start paying attention to where you're getting exposed to eggs. And again, I'm going to be telling you some other ideas for breakfast, because I know you're already like, what am I going to have for breakfast if I can't have cereal and I can't have eggs? Now, a lot of times, the other thing people have for breakfast is bread, right? Sometimes you have the egg with bread or toast, or sometimes you're just going to have toast with something else on it, like avocado toast or peanut butter. Okay, well, I'm sorry to tell you, but the next food that I recommend avoiding is bread, because as delicious as it is, keep in mind, I was addicted to bread earlier in my life. I thought, how could anyone live without bread? It's so delicious. There's so many amazing kinds of bread. There's olive bread, rosemary. There's amazing kinds of bread that taste so good. And yet, when you eat bread, again, it's raising your blood sugar levels because it's carbs. Even one slice of bread gives you more carbs than you really need in a single meal. If you eat a piece of bread, then you can't even eat any other carbs in that meal because you've already overdone the number of carbs that we really should consume at a single sitting. So at that point, then you could only have like a little quarter or half a piece of bread. And what's the point of that? It's still going to be raising your blood sugar. Most bread is made from highly refined gluten or other grains. Even if you get a gluten-free bread, it's likely rice, potato, corn. Sometimes you can get a millet bread, which if you really, really, really want to have bread, you could have a millet bread, but you need to have millet bread that's gluten-free, dairy-free, egg-free, sugar-free, and yeast-free. So yes, you can find that. There is a bakery that makes that kind of bread, but still it's mostly carbohydrates. And so I would say, you know what? I just decided I'm not going to eat that bread anymore because it's only going to work against you with your metabolism, with your blood sugar levels. And I'd much rather use my carbohydrates in a different way. I'd much rather get carbohydrates and fiber from fruits, vegetables, and whole grains, not bread. So if you're a bread eater, I recommend that you really take a moment to reconsider and think about how you could eliminate bread from your kitchen, from your diet. And even when you go to restaurants, you don't need to have bread. You can skip that part. You could ask for olives or something else instead. So that's the next food I would recommend avoiding is bread. Now, one of the things we often do with bread is make a sandwich for lunch, right? So here's the thing. That means you're probably not going to be having a sandwich for lunch. You could get a tortilla. I have seen some pretty amazing tortillas made with very clean ingredients. And so that might be a possibility if you can find a very, very clean tortilla, then you could make a wrap for your lunch. But what I tend to do is I just think of it as, okay, if I remove the bread from the sandwich, what do we have left? We have a salad. So what I recommend instead of having a sandwich is have a salad. It could be arugula, it could be mixed greens, of course, organic. It could be any other kind of greens that you like for a salad. Then you can add your favorite, let's say avocado. You can add sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds, organic. You can add chicken or turkey. Again, free range, hormone free. So now you're getting protein from chicken or turkey. You're getting healthy fats from olive oil you can put on the salad and from avocados and from nuts and seeds. And you're getting fiber from the vegetables and the greens. And that's a much more nutrient dense way to get your nutrients than from a sandwich. So the other thing would be on the sandwich and on the salad, one of the most common things we add that I'm going to recommend you avoid is cheese, right? So many times, even if it's a breakfast sandwich, we're going to have bread and eggs and cheese, right? So I'm saying avoid the bread. Even if it's a croissant, I would avoid it. And I would avoid the egg and I would avoid the cheese because, again, with cheese, we're back to cow milk exposure and cow milk or dairy. Now, most times when we hear about dairy, we think about lactose. And lactose is the sugar in dairy. And yes, that is a consideration in terms of like if someone's not digesting lactose well, that can cause bloating. And that's usually what people experience from drinking cow milk. They might, if they're not digesting lactose, they might get bloating from cow milk because of the lactose. But I'm here to tell you that it's not just about lactose. In dairy products, anything made from cow milk except for butter, there's also proteins, and the proteins, which are called casein and whey, casein and whey. Those are the proteins in dairy, and it's the proteins in dairy that trigger the immune system. Remember the leaky gut and how the eggs leak through and the egg white triggers the immune system? It's the same thing with the dairy proteins. So when you consume cow milk or cheese or yogurt, we're going to talk about in a minute here, then the casein and whey is coming through your intestines, it leaks through, and your immune system gets triggered and it starts trying to protect you from the cheese, from the milk, and from the yogurt. So we need to eliminate that, because dairy protein is this most common food sensitivity that I find. And remember, I've been doing thousands, probably, I don't even know, it's got to be hundreds of thousands of food sensitivity panels for over 25 years. And the most common food sensitivity I see is to dairy proteins like casein and whey. So yes, you can do the food panel yourself. Just reach out to my office and we can help you get it done. But you might just decide, hey, you know what? If I'm eating dairy, if you start to realize you're having dairy for breakfast, for lunch, for dinner, it's time to eliminate it. Okay, so rethinking the sources of cow milk, the exposure that you're having. And instead of cheese, my favorite way to sort of like replace the cheese and make myself think I'm eating cheese is to use avocado. You can use avocado on your salad. You can use avocado in many different ways, and it gives you a similar texture and mouthfeel as cheese. So it can make you feel like you're having cheese even though you're not. So avocado is a great way to replace cheese. Also, hummus is a great way to replace cheese. Hummus is a Middle Eastern spread made from chickpeas and tahini, and you can oftentimes find it in a health food store. And hummus is another great way to replace cheese in your diet. So, okay, let's see, where are we? I wanted to mention with bread, because we talked about the reasons to avoid bread in terms of all the other ingredients and also because of the blood sugar imbalance. But I also want to make sure and point out that bread, most bread that is made from wheat, barley, rye, or spelt, which all contain gluten. And gluten causes leaky gut. We talked about that. And gluten also triggers inflammation in the body, including in the vagina. So, yeah, I know that sometimes we think, well, how is something I'm eating have anything to do with the vagina? But I'm telling you, when you eat a food that's inflammatory, it spreads through your whole body, to your skin, to your sinuses, to your digestion, and to your vagina as well. And when there's inflammation in the vagina, that's what's going to make you more susceptible to HPV and abnormal cells caused by HPV. So avoiding gluten is important for multiple reasons. Gluten causes leaky gut, making you more reactive to other foods. Gluten also causes inflammation, making you susceptible to HPV and other health issues. And gluten also causes nutrient deficiencies. It's very common when someone eats a lot of gluten that they're going to be deficient in at least iron and vitamin D. And wouldn't you know that iron and vitamin D are essential for helping you fend off the high-risk HPV virus. So we need to test and see if you're deficient and then replace those nutrients and then eliminate the gluten from your diet so that you don't become deficient again.
Have you been dealing with high-risk HPV virus and potentially abnormal cells on your pap smear result? I'm Dr. Doni Wilson, naturopathic doctor and midwife, and I've been helping thousands of women over the past 24 years to help them clear the HPV virus to negative and prevent cervical cancer, and I would love to teach you as well. I invite you to join me at my next free 5-day online workshop. I'm going to be teaching you all about HPV. I'll teach you all about understanding your pap smear results, clearing HPV to negative, and help you to understand what's making you susceptible to this virus in the first place. Just click on the link down below, and it will guide you to join me at the very next workshop, where I'm going to be able to guide you to create your healing plan to get rid of HPV. I look forward to seeing you there in the workshop.
So that's why I would be thinking about avoiding gluten. Now, if you've never avoided these foods before, I know that it can be a bit overwhelming and thinking, how am I going to do this? What am I going to eat? Well, especially if your diet has been mostly these items, right? If you've been having cereal or eggs, cereal with milk or eggs with bread and cheese and or yogurt, and then for breakfast and for lunch and then for dinner, then you're having pasta with cheese, right? It's a repeat. You're having something with gluten or refined grains and dairy each meal. And you start to feel like that's the only food options that we have. So I'm here to remind you that there's so many more food options for us out there. We can be not only replacing dairy with dairy-free options like coconut and nut milks, but we can also be replacing gluten items with gluten-free items. But I would say I wouldn't take it even a step further than that. I would say it's not just about switching out and trying to replace dairy for a dairy-free item or gluten for a gluten-free item. I would say we want to be looking and expanding the different foods that we're exposing to, because if it comes down to it, it's when we eat, it's not just for us. We're eating for our microbiome. We're eating for our gut microbiome and our vaginal microbiome. And the vaginal microbiome helps protect you from high-risk HPV as well as other infections like BV and yeast. So we need to be thinking about and paying attention to what are you feeding your gut bacteria, because that's going to influence your vaginal bacteria. And if you're eating the same two things all the time, some form of dairy, some form of gluten, and then maybe some sugar and eggs mixed in, then your gut bacteria are having a very low exposure to different kind of foods. So we need to be thinking about how to increase the variety in your diet. So, and at the same time, we need to be thinking about how to increase your protein. Most people, I find, are really not consuming enough protein. There's not very much protein in dairy products. There's probably almost no protein in cereals and breads. And there's almost no protein there's only a little bit in eggs. So I would say, let's rethink this. Let's say, hey, we want variety, we want protein, and we don't want all that processed food. Okay, so how are we going to do that? Well, one of the things that I do and recommend in the morning, because it is important that we get some protein in the morning, is I tend to go straight to a protein shake. Now, some protein shakes contain whey. We're right back to the dairy protein. Or they contain sugar, and we're right back to sugar again. And so I don't recommend doing that. Don't use a whey shake. Don't use an egg shake that has sugar in it. Instead, what I recommend doing is going to a protein shake that is either pea protein based or what would be referred to as a bone broth shake, which is from a beef source, right? So this way you're getting protein from sources that are way less triggering to the immune system and still contain at least 18 or 20 grams of protein in a serving. So this way you can get protein without the exposure to dairy, without the exposure to egg. Okay, so I'll put a link down below so you can see the pea protein and the bone broth protein that I recommend. And then what you can also do if you're like, okay, I had a protein shake, but I really would like some other breakfast ideas, then what I recommend doing is setting aside what we conceive as an American breakfast, right? We're usually thinking of breads and eggs and cereal, and we need to just be like, no, whoever decided that was breakfast, we're going to cross it off the list and we're going to start over and create a new definition of breakfast. So breakfast could be a protein shake or smoothie. Breakfast can be even leftovers from dinner. You can have salmon for breakfast. You can even have chicken or turkey for breakfast. There's turkey bacon. There's chicken sausages. There's also fruit, of course. You can have berries, either fresh berries, organic, or frozen berries, or other kinds of fruit, along with your protein. So start to think of like, how can I have a breakfast that's not the standard American breakfast, that contains healthy nutrients, that's going to help you get through your day and protect you from high-risk HPV. I already told you my favorite for lunch, which is to do a salad. My favorite is arugula, but you can also choose other organic greens along with a protein like chicken, turkey, salmon, or if you're eating plant-based, you can choose a plant-based protein to go with your salad, including sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds, and then you can add avocado, olives. These have healthy fats in them and give you more fiber as well. And then for dinner, we're going to also go for, where's the protein? Choose the protein first. 20 to 30 grams of protein can be a free-range beef even, chicken, turkey, wild salmon, or other fish that you prefer. And then you're going to combine it with organic vegetables, maybe broccoli, Brussels sprouts, carrots, greens, kale, any other vegetable, bok choy, vegetables that you enjoy. And you can combine that with a small amount of whole grains. That might be quinoa, might be brown rice, might be a different grain if you like, or not. So that starts to give you an idea of how to do this. Now, a lot of people will say to me, what about yogurt, Dr. Doni? Because I keep hearing that yogurt is good for me, and I really like the Greek yogurt. Of course, there's another thing that's so easy. We just grab the Greek yogurt, open it, and we're like, oh, we think we're getting some protein. But I want to come back and remind you, first of all, Greek yogurt most times is made from dairy, made from cow milk. Next is most yogurts still have sugar in them of some sort, or some sort of sweetener. So you got to look for that on the label. And even if they have a little bit of protein, they're not going to have an adequate amount of protein. So I would say, and people think, oh, yogurt is going to be fermented. It's giving me some support for my microbiome. Now, yes, having a little bit of fermented foods can be beneficial to our microbiome. But the thing is, I think what happens is we start to think that if a little bit is good, that a lot is better. And so I want to warn you that when it comes to fermented foods, really we only need a teeny little bit. Like these gut bacteria, they don't need to be overfed. I can't tell you how many people are having so much yogurt, so much kombucha, so much fermented foods, and then they end up having bloating and gas, and they're like, Dr. Doni, why do I have so much bloating and gas? And I say, well, have you been eating fermented foods? And they say, yes, I'm having fermented foods, a whole bunch of it every day. And I'm like, oh, no wonder you have bloating and gas, because now you've overfed your gut bacteria. So I would say we need to cut back. It's not to say that we're not going to have any, but it's to say just have a little bit. Maybe you have a spoonful of kimchi or sauerkraut. Maybe you have a little bit of fermented foods, even just a couple times a week. You don't need to have lots of it, because it ends up overfeeding the bacteria. And certainly, even though yogurt is a fermented food, I have other concerns because it's most often made from cow milk, most often contains some sort of sweetener, and usually doesn't contain enough protein. You're going to have to add protein to the yogurt to get anywhere near 20 to 30 grams. So while yes, occasionally I will have coconut yogurt, right? So I'm avoiding dairy and choosing a coconut yogurt, or you can also find oat milk yogurt, or you could, potentially find like a goat milk yogurt. But the thing is, you're going to want to have a small amount, like 1 or 2 spoonfuls, and then you're going to combine it with something healthy like some fresh or frozen berries. You probably are going to want to add some protein powder to it to get your protein content up. And then you're going to want to make sure you're choosing a dairy-free yogurt that's also doesn't have sugar in it, right? So you need to be thinking this through and looking at the ingredients. So I encourage you to really, when you go to the store, don't just grab things off the shelf. We have to pick it up, turn it around, and read the ingredients and see what really is in this product. Many times I'm quite disappointed. I'm all excited. I see the product on the shelf. I pick it up, I turn it around, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's full. It says, and sometimes it doesn't say sugar. Sometimes it says cane juice or even organic cane juice or sugar cane. Now a lot of people will say to me, what about fruit as a sugar? You can have fruit because fruit doesn't have as much sugar in it, right? It's a fructose type of sugar, and it has all the nutrients and fiber along with it. So having berries is way different than having a spoonful of sugar. So now it is possible to overdo the fruit as well. If a person's having a whole cup or 2 cups of fruit at one serving, now we're even having too much fruit at once, and you're likely to get bloating or diarrhea from that. So I don't recommend overdoing the fruit either, but you can have a half a cup at a time, and you can have it in a balanced meal. Maybe you have 1 or 2 spoonfuls of a non-dairy yogurt without sugar in it. And then, or you can add some walnuts, add something that has protein in it, walnuts or cashews or whatever your favorite nut is, hazelnuts or cashew or pecans. Right? So now you're adding some protein, and you can also add some protein powder. One of my favorites lately is I add the bone broth protein powder in with my berries and 2 spoonfuls of coconut yogurt. So that's how we can be creative to have delicious food that's healthy for you, and you're going to be your mind blown when you realize, oh my gosh, there's so many other foods to choose from than dairy, eggs, and gluten. You're going to be like, oh my gosh, wow. Now it means you're probably going to need to go to a different grocery store. I go to sometimes standard grocery stores, and they do have some of these options more and more available. You have to kind of look a little more to find them in the store. If you go to more of a health food store, you're going to be much more likely to find these different options, including much more selection in terms of organic, much more selection in terms of whole foods, and dairy-free, sugar-free options. But even when you go to the health food store, you still have to turn it around and look at the other ingredients and double check, because sometimes something looks very healthy. That's why I say sometimes cereal looks very healthy, and then you look on the back of it and you're like, wait a minute, this is not healthy at all. Okay, so let's review. Because I know it's a lot to take in. I don't recommend that you try to do all of this overnight. It doesn't require that you go cold turkey off of these foods. Some of you, that might be your personality to make quick changes, but I really encourage you to take notes, look in your kitchen, strategize. Maybe you start with one meal and you start to go, how am I going to replace my breakfast? Now, how am I going to replace my lunch? Now, how am I going to replace my dinner? So you can go step by step. I usually tell patients, give yourself at least a month to gradually shift over your diet to be avoiding these foods. It's because then you're being gentle with yourself. We don't want you losing too much weight. I definitely don't want you, having not enough food options and starving yourself. That's not what we're trying to do here. So I want you to still be eating. I want you to still be getting enough protein, carbs, and fat. And I want you to be gentle with yourself and not stressing about this. Use it as an opportunity for learning. Be curious, even have fun with it, and realize, wow, here's all these foods that I even forgot that are available to me as options in my diet. And little by little, and you're going to have to try a few things, a few different recipes, a few different products, a few different stores. sometimes we get such in a routine, we don't even realize that we just keep going to the same store, buying the same thing, eating the same thing all the time. So it takes a little bit of encouragement to say, okay, I'm going to try something new. I'm going to try something different. And you can tell if you live with someone in your home, let them know, hey, I want to try something different. And little by little, day by day, week by week, you start to make these changes. And then I think you're going to be so amazed what your body's going to tell you how happy it is, because most women within 2 weeks of making these changes start to say to me, oh, my reflux went away. The bloating's gone. My headaches are gone. My skin is clearer. And lo and behold, those are all the steps along the way that I find lead you to getting HPV to negative and your cervix to heal and your pap smear normal, and keep it that way. So, and then along the way, we start healing leaky gut so that you can maintain it over time. So again, the foods to avoid are ice cream and cereal, right? Open up your cabinet, get it out of there, give it away, don't have it anymore. Milk that goes with the cereal, and any other way that you might be using milk. Some people put milk in their coffee or drink it straight. I would say, no, it's not worth it. It's not worth the calories to be drinking cow milk. Much better to be drinking water or tea. That's a much better source of hydration than milk. Okay, you can get your protein, you can get your calcium from other sources too, because some people say, well, what about calcium? You can get calcium from so many other foods. Nuts contain calcium, vegetables contain calcium. So there's many ways we can get calcium besides from milk. Okay, so just know, okay, I'm going to set aside the milk. I'm going to drink water instead, and I'm going to get my calcium, magnesium, and vitamin D and K from other sources that are healthier for me. Then we're going to avoid the eggs. Now I'm talking about the egg whites and the egg yolk, so I would just avoid the egg altogether. Now there are some nutrients in eggs that are important, so that's something to consider. We're going to want to make sure you're still getting enough B vitamins and choline, so that's something that I cover in another video. But for now, just figure, okay, let's start reducing the eggs and avoiding the eggs, because that's only going to help you heal faster. We need to get the bread out of there. Get rid of the bread. It's no longer on the shopping list for all the reasons we just discussed. Get rid of the cheese. As tempting as it is, I think one of the most addictive foods besides sugar is cheese. And so, believe me, I've loved cheese so many times. And then I realized when I'm eating cheese, I feel worse. I'm more inflamed. My joints hurt. My head hurts. And then it makes the HPV more likely. So I would just say, take the cheese off your shopping list and put avocados or olive spread, hummus, choose other things, and even use spices. A lot of times what I find is the best way to avoid cheese is to use garlic, use onion, use rosemary, use Italian herbs. When you put these different savory flavors from plants in your food, you're not even going to miss that cheese. It's going to be like, what are you talking about? I don't need cheese. I got garlic, onions, rosemary, and other herbs, basil. So use these things to help you to be able to not be missing the cheese. And then the last one is yogurt. To say, wait a minute, let me rethink what I've been hearing about yogurt and decide maybe yogurt isn't even the best option. That's just a convenient way to get more cow milk source and sugar and too much fermented foods. If you really need to replace good bacteria, it's much better to get a high quality probiotic in a capsule, because this way we can really control exactly which bacteria you're swallowing. So I can put a link down below of my favorite women's probiotic, which you can just swallow the capsule, you get your good bacteria, and then you feed those good bacteria with your healthy fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, and other natural sources of fiber. So That's a much better way to support your microbiome, both your gut microbiome and your vaginal microbiome, so they can protect you from infections, including from high-risk HPV virus. Okay, so I know we covered a lot. I'm excited for you to have this information. I hope you've been taking notes, but I have notes down below as well to help you. And I look forward to connecting with you soon. If you'd like more help with dealing with an abnormal pap and high-risk HPV, please don't hesitate to reach out, or you can join me at the next online workshop called How to Get Rid of HPV, free online workshop available around the world online. Just follow the link down below and you can join me there. I look forward to meeting you and guiding you and supporting you. This is absolutely going to make a difference. I see it every day with the women who I'm helping. They report back to me that they are so glad that they took these foods out of their diet. As afraid as they were to begin with, they did it and they feel proud and empowered and so happy that they were able to get HPV to negative and heal their cervix and prevent it from causing issues and put an end to the procedures and the fear and the stress related to HPV. What a relief, right? Sometimes you have to really say to yourself, what's more important here? Eating these foods that sound good, that I'm used to eating, that I crave. The reason our body craves them is because we're having them all the time and our body's used to something sweet, or it's used to the taste. So is it more important to keep eating that food just because we're used to it? Or is it more important to improve your health and your longevity and protect yourself and from something like HPV related cancer, right? And sometimes you have to really put those two things in front of you and say, what am I really choosing here? Am I really choosing something that I value? I'm valuing my health. I want to be here for my family. I want to be here for my passion and my purpose. I'm going to choose that. And sometimes we have to really remind ourselves of that with clarity in order to say, I'm going to choose differently. When I go to the store, I'm going to buy different food and I'm going to figure out how to make it for myself, and I'm going to make it taste good, and I'm going to love it because it's healthy for me and it's improving my health and improving my future. So I'm so glad you joined me here today. And if you haven't already subscribed to this channel or this podcast, then I welcome you to subscribe and join me here. You can also subscribe to my newsletter so that you'll receive an email as soon as I release the next episode each week. So I can put a link down below as well, how you can subscribe to my weekly Wellness Wisdom newsletter. And I'm so glad you're here, and I look forward to connecting with you again very soon.
Thanks for listening to How Humans Heal. If you liked this episode, leave a rating and a review. And for more resources, visit drdoni.com.